Tilehurst End podcast.
By Reading fans, for Reading fans.
Hello and welcome to the Tilehurst End podcast extra in association with the Wokingham paper for today, December the 8th. My name is Olly Allen, your host for today's show, and I'm delighted to be joined as ever by the Wokingham paper's Tom Crocker. Tom, hi, how are you?
Morning, Ollie. Good, thank you. It's been nice to have a whole week to celebrate a win for once.
Yeah, we've not had a midweek game to mull over, and we've had a whole week to enjoy that Sunderland victory, as you say. And that's exactly where we're going to start, at the Stadium of Light last Saturday. A 3-1 win for Reading. They avoided the banana skin. It was 0-0 at half-time, and then Dave Edwards got his second goal in as many games after the break, and a Mo Barrow brace got us 3-0 up for Lewis Brabham. We said he'd pop up last weekend. He's got a late penalty to get a consolation. Sunderland did, of course, have a man sent off in Callum McManaman for a second bookable offence for him handling the ball into the back of the net. Do you think that changed the game, Tom? I mean, obviously he's not a defender, but Chris Coleman thought obviously they were reduced to 10 men, so obviously do you think Reading would have run out in such convincing fashion if they hadn't had a man sent off?
Yeah, it's probably the key moment of the game, really, if that goes in. Obviously Sunderland, it was a double whammy, really, because it was a goal as well just before half-time, and they would have gone in 1-up, and the optimism would have been massive around the Stadium of Light. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that's probably a big moment in the game. You can't obviously tell exactly what would have happened, but it's a brilliant spot from the referee as well. We could have easily not seen that and not given it, because it wasn't so obvious, I don't think, from initial viewing. But obviously he saw it and has given it, and yeah, he's had to send him off. So it's obviously the key moment, and Reading then stepped on the gas in the second half, and I think they were sort of growing into the game in the first half anyway, after Sunderland started quite brightly, as you'd probably imagine. But I think we said last week, Reading, they've showed they are the better team than Sunderland this season so far, and they probably caught them just about the right time before they maybe start pushing up the table a little bit. So yeah, they got the 3 goals, and like I say, Dave Edwards getting another one, and then a couple for Mo Barrow, good finishes from him, and yeah, late consolation penalty, which to me didn't really look at all like a penalty either. It looked like he threw himself to the floor, but it didn't really matter in the end. And yeah, they've got a really morale boosting win, I think.
Definitely, yes, and that is, of course, 2 games in a row now that we scored 3 goals, which is really, really pleasing, and also just 1 defeat in 7 as well, which led to Jaap Stam getting a Manager of the Month nomination yesterday. Obviously, I think it was Nuno Espirito Santo who took the award this morning, but it's really pleasing that we're starting to really get some momentum going.
Yeah, that's been the big word, I think, for most of the season, trying to get some momentum. And like you say, 1 defeat in 7, that was against Wolves, so 4 wins from those 7 games as well. So they are, the table showing it as well. They're up to, I think, 14th now and closing in on that top half, and things are a lot more positive. And yeah, it's a couple of wins in a row as well, scoring plenty of goals now. And I think for the first time since September, Liam Kelly's not the top scorer anymore, so he hasn't scored for ages either. So that's one honour I think Mo Barrow can take, and I think he's the sort of person who could even go on and score more goals, to be honest. I think he's sort of averaging 1 in 4, something like that. I think he could bring that down. He gets a lot of chances, and he showed real composure on Saturday for 2 really good finishes. So it seems like he's working that into his game, and they're getting the best out of him. And another unchanged team as well, which probably is helping. And yeah, it's just momentum is building, and it's another chance to build on that again on Monday night with a tricky game, but it's another chance to keep building that momentum.
Definitely. I don't want to sound pessimistic, but do you think we do need to temper our expectations sort of slightly? Obviously, it was, I say, only Sunderland. Obviously, they're struggling this season, and Reading are going to face tougher challenges this season. Obviously, it was a fantastic win, but do you think sort of it might give a false impression, or do you think it's just important just to get the win against whoever it was against?
Yeah, it's a fair comment. Obviously, they beat Barnsley and Sunderland, who aren't 2 of the better teams in the league, but position Reading were in, they just have to get the wins from anywhere, really. Reading weren't in a particularly great position either before those 2 wins, so I don't think you can really at this stage be too fussy about who you pick up the points against. They haven't really been picking up wins most of the season against teams you'd maybe expect them to beat. Obviously, they went to Bolton and only drew, so to go to Sunderland and win, yeah, I think any away win in the Championship, a bit of a cliche, but I think it's a brilliant point away from home, let alone a win. So I think it's momentum's been the main thing, no matter who they've been playing. And to go into a game like Monday against a team fighting for promotion, I think they needed a couple of good results behind them. And it's like I said, I think it's 4 unbeaten now, so they've got that behind them, and they a bit of confidence back just from winning games, no matter who it's against. And I think that's the main thing to take away. Although admittedly they will have to beat a couple of the bigger teams if they are going to push even further up towards the playoffs.
Yeah, we are now 14th in the table, as you mentioned a little earlier, which is 10 points off the relegation zone and 9 off the playoffs. We are obviously recording this on a Friday, so this will obviously change over the course of the weekend before we play on Monday. But it is, I think, considering especially after the defeat to Wolves and the draw at Bolton, this is certainly, after the 2 wins from 2, is certainly as good a position as Reading probably could have hoped for after that slightly dip in form.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think before the Sheffield Wednesday game, I think sort of said 5 points from those 3 games before that Sunderland one would have been a good return, and they've got that just to try and steady the ship a little bit and not be too worried about relegation or anything like that. I think they've pulled away from that a bit now, and all eyes are firmly looking upwards, especially after getting the win again on Saturday. So yeah, after a slow start, I think to be 14th is probably at best you could maybe hope in their mid-table now, and it's just winning games is getting everyone in a bit of a more positive frame of mind. Hopefully get a decent crowd one day and push up into the top half, and then when you're in the top half, you're never that far away from the playoffs. So to be 14th now after the slow start, I think they'll be relatively happy with that, and they seem to be building a bit of momentum, finding a settled team, and it's all a bit steadier now rather than what it had been earlier on in the season, I think.
Absolutely, I think I've certainly changed my mindset from looking nervously over my shoulder at the relegation zone to now potentially looking at how we could break into that top 6. So obviously no midweek games we mentioned to look back on, so we'll move straight on to a couple of news bites this week. First of all, on Monday night it was the third round draw for the FA Cup, always a great event in the football calendar. And Reading, they didn't get a glamour tie, they got Stevenage away. It will be only the third time we've played the League 2 side. I think they're currently 15th or somewhere in mid-table in League 2. Both previous meetings have come in the FA Cup. Stevenage pulled off a shock win, 1-0 win at the Leicester Stadium in 2012, and Reading won 2-1 at the Lamex Stadium in 2011. Quick thoughts on this, ties? It's certainly winnable.
Yeah, it's certainly winnable. I think it's not a bad draw at all, really. I think the main thing you want from these sort of draws is not to just draw away at a fellow championship team. I think that's the sort of the nightmare. You don't get to go to a different ground or anything, and it's a tie that you could easily end up losing. So I think to go away to a ground that many fans wouldn't have been to before is always a nice thing. It's a relatively short trip as well, and like I said, it's a very winnable tie. They got knocked out early last year at Man United. They had the big glamour game, but then suddenly, obviously, they had the promotion running then, so that was excitement for the season. But we've seen it recently where, if a couple of seasons ago where you're not fighting up the top, a cup run can keep your season alive a little bit. And Reading have had a couple of good runs in recent years, and away at Stevenage is a game that you'd expect them to win, and give them you never know who they get then, so it could be another chance for another run. And no. Yapp's always said that he really wants to run in one of these cups. Just last year they ran into Arsenal away and Man United away. So if they can avoid those teams, they'll want to get through this one and then try and test themselves against maybe a Premier League team or try and get through a couple of rounds with some of the lower league teams. So I think it's a good draw. It's obviously not a glamour draw or anything, but I think everyone will be relatively happy with it, and it'll be a nice opportunity for some of the players in January as well.
Yeah, obviously in that run to semi-finals in 2014-15, we didn't play a single Premier League side until the semi-finals against Arsenal. So we'll talk more about it closer to the time. But do you think, obviously you mentioned Yaps said that he would prefer a cup run, but do you think a cup run would be good for Reading this season? Obviously we saw that the league form did sort of suffer in 2014-15 and 15-16 as a result of the cup run, and as you said, obviously knocked up to Man United last season and went on to have a promotion chase. Do you think it is possible to sort of to have both a promotion push and a good cup run, or do you think it's a case of sort of prioritising one over the other?
I think it's, if you've got a big enough squad which Reading have, then I think it's possible to juggle the two, and it sort of keeps a lot of players happy as well. They're getting minutes. I mean, especially the early rounds, I think you play it and then you've got another week for the next game, I think, usually. So especially for those rounds, it's not too much for an issue. I think in the 2015 one under Steve Clarke, they had a game against Watford probably 2 days earlier, I think, than the replay. So they were just going to sort of sacrifice that sort of game, especially when you're in the bottom half. Then I think it's fair enough to look towards the cup. Obviously, the main aim right now is to try and get back in the top 6. But if it looks come January, February, that's not very likely, then I think Yap will play a really strong team in the FA Cup. And I think if the situation arises where you have to make a choice and they're safe in mid-table, I don't think anyone would be too disappointed if they did go all out for the cup. Yeah, but I think with the squad Reading have got now, there's no reason why they can't sustain their decent form in the league as well as having a good run if they get a decent draw. So I don't think it necessarily has to be one or the other, but when it comes to it, that you might have to prioritise one like they did in 2015.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think you've got to prioritise the promotion. I think as you said, I think Reading have got a big enough squad. Certainly if they can stay clear of injuries, and certainly we saw a lot of the youngsters in the EFL Cup, and they look very, very promising. So if they can give them more opportunities in the Cup and a chance to shine, and that could only be a good thing. And talking of one of those youngsters, Axel Andersson, he's moved on loan to Torquay United in the National League. So the assistant manager there is Martin Kull, obviously former academy manager at Reading. He impressed in his EFL Cup appearances this season.
Yeah, he did a couple of appearances, and yeah, he looked really good actually. He's someone that I think Stan quite likes and wanted to get involved. He played a bit in pre-season as well, and he's obviously had a loan last year at Bath City and did really well there. Now this is a sort of another step up for him. So yeah, obviously you'll know Martin Kull as well from working with him at the youth levels, and it seems like a good move all round. It's obviously only just a month deal, so it's not if it doesn't quite work out, he can come back again and continue where he left off. But yeah, it'll be good for him. I think Torquay are in a bit of a relegation battle, so that's another challenge for him in his football development, going into games week in, week out, knowing you've got to get the results or they could get relegated. So it'd be a nice challenge for him. I think he'll do well there, and he showed last year what he's about, and he'll be looking towards trying to break into the first team again. But right now, with the team as it is, he's probably sort of fifth choice centre back, so there's no real need for him to be here for the next month. I don't think he's probably better served there playing football.
You mentioned the relegation battle there. Do you think it's a good thing that he's being thrown into that relegation battle, or would you have liked to sort of maybe see them sort of go higher up in that National League division?
I think it can be quite good for young players. I think to have a game at a weekend where you know that you got to scrap for the points, and especially for a centre back, he's going to have a lot to do. You'd imagine if he's playing for a team that's struggling a little bit. So it's a chance for him to shine and to show what he can do. And just in terms of development as a player, he's obviously there just for a month or until the end of the season possibly, and then he'll come back. So for him, it's not like it's a career-threatening thing if they do get relegated, but for a lot of these players it will be. So he's got to go in there and help them out and show what he can do, so that later down his career he might be in a real relegation battle for one of his teams that he is playing for. I think it's just a good thing to try and get in early in your development, and it could work out quite well for him.
Yeah, it is a fairly low risk move, I would agree. Moving on then to the Cardiff game this weekend, or shall I say on Monday night, obviously live in front of the Sky cameras. We'll have to wait for the whole of the Championship to play over the course of the weekend before we host Cardiff on Monday. The Bluebirds flying high this season. They're currently second in the table, and that will be, I think, they can't go any higher than that, and they can't go any lower than that, even if results don't go their way this weekend. They've won each of their last 4 games, and they've got the best defence in the division, conceding just 14 goals. How surprised have you been on how well they've done this season? We spoke before the Wolves game a couple of weeks ago, and we said that, and you said you predicted them to do well this season. Obviously they are doing, but I think Cardiff are very much a surprise package this season.
Yeah, I think that's very much the case. I don't think anyone particularly saw it, probably not even necessarily the Cardiff fans. I mean, obviously when they've got Neil Warnock, he knows how to get out of this league, and he did well last season there, and he's built a team that's proven hard to beat. Like you say, they've only let in 14 goals, and they've got Morrison and Bamber at centre back, and that's 2 tough centre backs to try and get through. So that's obviously where it's built on. They've lost Kenneth Zahore up front, who's their best striker, and I think possibly still their top scorer, and he's out until the new year still. So they're still getting results without him. So it's clearly down to the work they're doing as a team, rather than you don't look through that team and pick out any individual you think is making them where they are. I think it's more of a big team effort. That's obviously something Reading know all about after last season. So yeah, they seem to be a really tough team to beat and to score against. And when you look through it like that, you probably say maybe it's not a surprise they're doing well. But I don't think at the start of the season anyone particularly saw it coming. And obviously they started well, and they've just stayed up. They've been in there all season, so they're there all merit, and they're proving difficult to beat. So it's going to be a tough game on Monday, definitely.
Yeah, if you look at the standout names, you've got like Junior Hoyland and Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, who equally aren't your traditional sort of standout star players, and but they have got 11 goals and 9 assists between them so far this season. So I think they'll be the two main threats for Cardiff.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility Mendes Lang might be out through injury, which would obviously be a bonus for Reading. But then, in terms of Cardiff, they got Omar Bogle as well, who was obviously linked with Reading, and Stam said he'd never heard of him when we asked him about that last January, I think it was. So that'll be interesting to see if he's heard a bit more about him now, because I think he scored a couple of goals for them. And yeah, they say it's not. They've got a couple of maybe stand-up names, but it's proving difficult to score past. And when you got a good defence and you score a couple of goals, then they're always going to be difficult to beat. So yeah, I don't think there's any one or two players they'll be paying particular notice to. I think it's more of a trying to put out another good performance, which Reading have done. Obviously, they lost that game to Wolves, but they played all right that day, and I think 7 decent performances in a row now. So you have to have every confidence they can get something from it. But I think it's going to be tough to break Cardiff down. I don't think it would necessarily be a great game for the cameras, but that's the way Cardiff play, and they're tough to beat. So that's their main strength, I think.
Yeah, they're certainly not like Reading last season. The fact that they've got no big standout names, but they are just a big team unit, and they've got great team spirit. I think that's certainly something that Neil Warnock instills in all of his teams. How are Reading looking ahead of this game, injury-wise? Any news on the likes of George Evans, Gareth McCleary, or John Swift?
I think there's a strong chance it's going to be the same team again for the third or fourth game in a row. So I don't think there's any new knocks, and I think some of the guys, those 3 you just mentioned there, are all pretty close now, but I don't think they're going to be back for Monday by the sounds of it. So it's going to be a case of as you were, which might not be a bad thing. Everyone seems to be getting to know their roles a bit better now in this team, and making it difficult for these guys to break in when they are back fit again. So yeah, in terms of Monday, I think it's going to be pretty much the same as it has been, and those 3 guys and a few of the other ones are hopefully going to push back into the squad over the Christmas period.
You heard it here first, folks. We might have an unprecedented 3rd game in a row without any changes in the side, and which going on last again, obviously we've won the last 2 games with that side, so I wouldn't be against that whatsoever. What do you think would be a good result for Reading here, Tom? Do you think a draw against obviously a high-flying side, do you think you'd take a draw, or is it just very important just to keep the momentum going and to get the victory?
Cardiff aren't losing many games, so I don't think you can say Reading have to win it. I don't think it'll be a sort of disaster if they draw it or anything. Obviously, I think they just want to put in another good performance and show what they can do against one of these big teams. Like you touched on it earlier, they got the wins against Barnsley and Sunderland, but if they can go and beat one of the top teams, that's going to be a real statement, I think, to the rest of the league that Reading are back involved in trying to push up for promotion again. And I think that'll be the main thing. If they can get the victory, that'll be the biggest thing to come from it. But yeah, I think if they can just play well and match one of these teams again and get some sort of result from it, just to keep the momentum rolling on through to the busy period of Christmas, then I think that'll be the main focus, rather than getting too worried on if they end up winning it or drawing it. I don't think it's a massive problem if they don't win it on Monday. Yeah,
I think we saw against Wolves a couple of weeks ago that Reading just aren't quite up to the standard of the best in this division quite yet, and obviously Cardiff right up there as well. So I think a draw would certainly be a very good result. In terms of your predictions, Tom, you're currently top of the prediction league now after correctly predicting that Reading would beat Sunderland last week. You're top outright.
Great.
So. So to try and keep that streak going, how do you see Monday's game panning out?
I'm going to go for a draw, actually. I'm not sure what the other guys have gone for, but I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think, like you say, the Wolves game showed that Reading perhaps weren't quite up to their level, but I think it's a good opportunity to show that they are up to the level of the rest of the Championship, which is all, I think, pretty tight. And I think, I'm not sure Cardiff are going to lose it, but I think 1-1. I think I'm going to stick with that one for Monday.
I think we'd certainly take that. We'll obviously have to see how the rest of the Championship pans out over the weekend, but I think 1-1 would, against a high-flying Cardiff side, would certainly be a more than a good result. What can we look forward to on the working on paper in the next couple of days? Obviously looking ahead to the Cardiff.
Yeah, so sort of looking ahead to that. It's a bit of a strange one, and the whole weekend blank to get stuff out. It'll probably be today, a bit of a preview today, and then it's all eyes on to Monday night. Really, we'll be covering it live from the Madside on Monday night, and it's hopefully a big occasion for once for the big team coming to the Madside, and hopefully get a decent crowd in, and obviously Sky are there. So yeah, that'll be the main focus now. It's all eyes on Monday. Really, not a lot going on since the Sunderland games between then. Really, so it's sort of a 10-day breather before the busy period begins. So that's what's coming up there. It's on wokelandpaper.com and on my Twitter's at Tom J Crocker.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, it has been a rather quiet 10 days or so in the break between these two games. Of course, obviously, also stay tuned to thetardestend.com. We've got lots of Cardiff preview content. We've spoken to a couple of Cardiff fans getting their thoughts on the game, and our Advent calendar series is still running, of course, throughout the month of December, looking at players who have worn shirt numbers corresponding to the day. So, for example, yesterday, number 7, we had Glenn Little talking about his goal against Plymouth. Tom, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Ollie.
And we will be back next Friday to look ahead to Reading's trip to Ipswich and hopefully look back on a win against Cardiff. So all I have to say is thank you very much for listening, and come on you R's.
Get social with the boys
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.